The aroma of roasted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes wafted through our dimly lit dining room as I stood there. I had spent the entire day arranging this, and my heart was racing with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. It was our 15th anniversary. Had planned this dinner with Clarissa to express my continued love and devotion to her, despite our shared struggles with our children. Since no one else was home, it was supposed to be a family gathering, but now it was just Marley. I went out of my way to get a thoughtful present. Not something showy, just something small. I was nervous as I placed it on the table, the little package wrapped in plain silver paper tied with a red ribbon. My morning mantra repeated in my head, "My darling of 15 years, we've been through a lot together, and this is for you." But before I could even get the words out, she stared at the gift, then at me, and rolled her eyes so hard I could feel the weight of it. She spoke in a sharp, almost knife-like voice, cutting through the warmth in the air. "And you're still jobless. Couldn't even buy a nice gift, could you?" I froze, my lips half open, the words I'd rehearsed dying in my throat. I needed to reassure her that tonight wasn't about money. But before I could, Marley scoffed from across the table. Her teenage sneer cut deeper than her mother's words. "We don't need your cheap gifts." She made a beeline for her phone, waving her fingers dismissively, as if I were an annoying fly buzzing around her perfect existence. I glanced at them both, my wife, my kid, feeling like a stranger in my own home. The candlelight flickered, casting shadows that danced across their faces. For a second, I couldn't move. My chest clenched. I thought about screaming, flipping the table, demanding that they at least open the damn gift just to see what I'd done for them. But instead, something else came over me. I laughed. Not a big, loud laugh, just a small giggle that slipped out before I could stop it. They looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Clarissa's eyebrows shot up. Marley finally glanced away from her screen. "You sure about that?" I asked, my voice calm, almost amused. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms, watching them squirm just a little. They didn't know what was in that box. They didn't know what I had been hiding, what I had been constructing while they wrote me off. Clarissa shoved the box back toward me with the back of her hand like it was trash and stood up. "Get out," she said, her tone flat, definite. Marley nodded, smirking, like she'd want anything. "From you." I grabbed the box, tucked it under my arm, and walked to the door without another word. The crisp night air touched my face as I stepped outside, and I heard the lock click behind me. My car was parked in the driveway, the same battered-up car I'd been driving for years. I slid into the driver's seat, the box resting on my lap. Didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew what was inside, proof of everything they had thrown away. I started the engine and pulled out. The streetlights blurred past me as I drove into the night. A week later, my phone started ringing. Clarissa's name flashed on the screen, then Marley's, over and over, voicemails piled up, texts too. But I didn't answer. I just sat there, in my borrowed room at Uncle Reuben's place, sipping coffee, staring at the little box on the table in front of me. They'd figure it out soon enough. They'd recognize what they had pushed away, and when they did, I'd be ready, not with wrath, not with tears, but with the quiet strength I had been holding on to all along. I leaned back in my chair as the phone vibrated again, and I grinned to myself. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The door cracked open. Not a knock, not a hesitation, just a smooth, practiced push like he belonged there. And there he was, Gregory, tall, polished, smirking like a man who always got what he wanted. He had his suit jacket slung over one shoulder, his shirt crisp and open at the collar, just enough to show off that gym-sculpted confidence. He took his time stepping in, scanning the room like he was already measuring it for changes. His eyes barely flicked to me before moving right past, like I wasn't even there. "Evening, ladies," he said. "All easy charm." Then he walked up to my wife, Clarissa, and slid his arm around her waist, pulling her close like he had every right to. And the worst part? She let him. Hell, she more than let him. She leaned into it, a soft little giggle slipping past her lips as if it was some inside joke between them. I stood there, my stomach twisting itself into knots. Then he did something that made my fingers curl into fists. Gregory reached for the wine glass sitting on the counter, the one I'd just poured for myself. He lifted it without a second thought, filled it with the bottle I bought, in the house I paid for, and raised it in a mock toast. "Cheers," he said smoothly, locking eyes with me over the rim before taking a slow sip. My chest tightened. I glanced at Clarissa, but she didn't even look my way. Marley, our daughter, was there too, sitting on the couch, tapping away on her phone. She barely acknowledged me, just a quick glance up and a smirk before returning to whatever conversation she found more important than her own father. I could feel the heat rising, anger, humiliation, that sharp, bitter ache of betrayal. I wanted to say something. I wanted to shout something. I wanted to knock that damn glass out of Gregory's hand and demand that they look at me. But I didn't. Instead, something inside me stilled. A moment of clarity. I looked at Clarissa again, the woman I'd once loved enough to build this life with, the same woman who, right now, stood pressed against another man without a flicker of hesitation. Marley, too. Our little girl, though not so little anymore. She had her mother's smile, but right now she wore Gregory's smirk. They didn't care. I could have screamed until my throat was raw. Could have reminded them of the years I'd spent breaking my back to provide for them, of the sacrifices, the missed opportunities, the quiet efforts that no one ever noticed. But none of it would have mattered. They'd already made their choice. So, I made mine. I grabbed the package from the counter, tucked it under my arm, and forced a slow, measured breath. When I spoke, my voice was calm, controlled. "All right," I said, giving Clarissa one last look. "I'll go." For a brief second, just a flicker of one, something flashed in her eyes. Surprise? Annoyance? Maybe she expected me to fight for her, to beg. But I didn't. Gregory chuckled behind me. "Take care, Tom," he called, his voice thick with fake sympathy. Clarissa giggled again. Marley barely looked up from her phone. I stepped outside. The night air was cold against my skin, but it felt good. Bracing. I walked to my car, the package still in my arms, and got inside. The gravel crunched under my tires as I backed out of the driveway. Their laughter still echoed in my ears. I glanced at the house in the rearview mirror. Lights glowing warmly inside, shadows moving behind the curtains. Their world continuing on without me. And yet, something in me felt lighter than it had in years. They thought they'd won. That I was the one left with nothing. But they didn't know what was in this box. Didn't know what I'd been building while they laughed behind my back. Didn't know just how much power I had now. I turned onto the main road, heading away from the house, the past, the lies. The weight in my lap wasn't a burden. It was freedom. It was a new beginning. And when they realized what they'd lost, that quiet little smirk I left them with, that's all they'd have left to remember me by.